Knights present Mixed Taste, tag team lectures on unrelated topics. And now, introducing tonight's unlikely pairing, Dream Technology and Boreal Toads. Please welcome tonight's host, Sarah Bye!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mixed Taste 2022. Fantastic. I'm Sarah Bye. I am the Director of Programming at the Museum of Contemporary Art. MCA Denver is Denver's cultural center of gravity, igniting curiosity through art and culture and creativity. And this is, believe it or not, the 18th year of Mixed Taste. I cannot believe it. Cannot believe it. We produce Mixed Taste in partnership with the Denver Center for the Performing Arts Division Off Center, and we are thrilled to continue that partnership this year. Off Center creates unexpected theatrical experiences that put the audience at the center of the story. I'll be taking turns this season hosting along with my friends and co-producers Charlie Miller and Britton Dola. Charlie Miller, here tonight. Thank you. And we are super excited to be back here at the Holiday Theater. MCA Denver hosted Mixed Taste at the Holiday Theater in 2016 and 2017. Were any of you here for those? Well, welcome home. We are thrilled to be back. This was the Highlands Church when we produced it here last time. And in 2020, the Highlands Church was purchased by the Denver Cultural Property Trust. They have another church. They found a wonderful home. And the MCA Denver assumed the lease on the theater in April. So welcome home. It's great to be back. Welcome to everyone here. Welcome to everyone watching at home. One of the great things that came out of the pandemic is the ability to live stream everything, and we're very grateful that we can do that here. So for those of you who are here in the theater, thank you so much for your patience as we navigate the Byzantine process that is getting a new liquor license in the city. Thank you. We hope that you are enjoying some delicious non-alcoholic cocktails. And for those of you who are watching at home, we hope that you have a tasty beverage of your own. All right, so now we're going to do a few bits of business, the first of which is Slido. And in order to allow viewers who are here in the theater and also those of you at home to answer questions at the same time, we are going to use Slido. So here's how it works. You can scan the QR code that's on your screen right now. And just open your camera and hold it over the QR code and tap the notification that pops up. And if it's not working for you, you can also go to slido.com and type in Mixed Taste, all one word. And when you get there, you should be at a web page with 3 tabs at the top of your screen where you can participate in the ideas chat, you can take polls, or you can submit questions for the Q&A. So we're going to take a quick poll to try it out. You can pull it up on your phone. And our poll is, what is your least favorite kind of dream? Is it falling from a great height? Is it losing all of your teeth? Is it being chased? Is it being naked in public? To me, those are all equally horrible dreams, but let's just have a look and see which of those dreams you are thinking is the worst. Oh, interesting. I cannot see your answers, so that is an interesting Slido quirk. Losing teeth, thank you. Yeah. Losing teeth. All right. That is terrible. By round of applause. How many hate falling from a great height? That's terrible. What about being chased? That seems more terrible. What about being naked in public? Well, I love you guys. You're like, that's fine. I do that all the time at the pool. It's basically the same thing. All right, now in the chat, we're going to go to the Ideas tab, and we're going to ask you to type in a recent dream that you would like to share with us. And this is important because later in Laurie's talk on dream technology, she wants to call up some of the things that you have been dreaming about. So go ahead and share your dream, and we'll get back to those a little bit later. All right, here we go. Mixed Taste. Mixed Taste is a mash-up series where we bring together two experts who each present on different topics, and then we have a live question and answer on both topics at the same time. I know we're all a little rusty. It's been a year. But we do it at the same time. The rules are super simple. The first speaker talks for 20 minutes, and then the second speaker talks on a completely unrelated topic for 20 minutes. During the first part of the program, no connections are allowed between the topics, but during the Q&A, anything can happen. Between the talks tonight, we are going to play a quick game, and at the end of the evening, a local poet will perform an original poem inspired by what we learned together. So let's introduce our first speaker. She'll be presenting on What Else? Dream Technology. Laurie Polisky is a filmmaker and a neuroscience researcher working at the intersection of science and film. She was recently awarded the Creative Nonfiction Accelerator Grant from Science Sandbox and Game Changer Films to develop a film about the emerging industry of dream technology. She is the director and producer of the documentary Pain Brain, which follows a neuroscience study on chronic pain, on which Laurie was a co-author. So please give a warm welcome to Laurie Polisky.
Hi, hello. Wow, I can't see you, but I feel you. Thank you, Sarah, for that intro. Thank you, Dele. Thank you, Danny, Ben, everyone who's gone into making this event possible. All the people I haven't met, because I know these things, it's a whole to-do. So I see you, I appreciate you. What better way to start than to share some dreams? Sarah, do you have the dream responses? Amazing. All right, let's do some of these on the fly, shall we? Having legs of radically different lengths. Unfortunate, yep. Sex dream with John Hamm. My ex proposed to me. Terrifying, yep. Female pilot careening a plane of people through buildings in a dense city. Okay, female pilot. Interesting how we wording. Camping at REI. Not going to REI and getting camping supplies, but camping at REI. I had a sex dream about Justin Bieber. Is that a dream or a nightmare? Showing up to teach unprepared. Oh gosh, yeah. Being on stage with Harry Styles. These are great. There's a lot of male pop icons coming up in the crowd. Donating blood. My mom decorated my house. That's amazing. Also, Mom, if you're watching. Okay, let's see. I found my dog, a 7-year-old lab mutt, in my laundry basket, but it was like the clock reversed and he was a puppy. Oh. That was very wholesome. I got chased by villains in India. Okay. Not sure this gives me a great sense of who everyone is here, but I think, at least we're remembering our dreams. We have somewhat of an active dream life, maybe. Or you're just here for the toads, let's be honest. Really excited about that, really excited for tonight. Thanks again for having me. Okay, I'm going to be talking about dream technology. What is that? I'll show you some pictures, or I'll try to show you some pictures of what that looks like. It could look like this, this, and this. So when I'm talking about dream tech, I'm talking about different types of technologies that are trying to interact, interface with, record your dreams, for example. My position, the reason I'm here, my relationship to the topic is that myself and my co-creator, Salix Finna, are working on a number of creative media projects on this topic, a film and also a podcast. So I'm not an expert. Well, who can be an expert in dreams, really? But also I don't really know what an expert is, and that's a whole other philosophical discussion in itself. So that's my entry point into the topic. And before we start talking about dream technology, I think it's important that we back up and first talk about dreams. So we spend a third of our lives asleep, and about a large amount of that time dreaming. So the verdict's still out on why we dream, and there's a lot of different theories, but majority of scientists agree that we wouldn't spend so much time in a very vulnerable state if it wasn't essential to our survival in some way. From dream research, there's a number of functions that dreams play in our biology, including incorporating memories, processing emotions, problem solving. Like, there's a reason we say sleep on it. It's because we actually a lot of times we wake up with more clarity about something we might have been chewing on. So, for many, dreams have deep cultural and spiritual significance, and there's a rich history, of course, of religious tradition around dreams, which is a whole nother talk in itself. Some people interpret dreams as messages from another realm, others creations of our own mind. Dreams have kind of been having a moment the last few years since the pandemic. There's been coverage of dreams from major news outlets. A study in France found that dream recall increased by 35% the month after lockdown began. So many people report that their dream lives became richer, more intense. Maybe some of you have experienced this. This is in part due to changing sleep schedules, like we're sleeping in, we have more REM cycles in the morning, so this is part of it. The other part is that there's a lot more anxiety dreams. There's a lot more uncertainty at this time, and researchers believe that contributes. It's also important to note that there are disparities in sleep quality along racial and socioeconomic lines. Studies show that non-white people take longer to fall asleep, they wake up more during the night, and spend less time in deep sleep, which is a sleep stage that's important for strengthening the immune system, forming memories, restoring cellular health, and sleep disorders are up to twice as common in people of color. And Dana Johnson, a sleep epidemiologist at Emory University, says that sleep is a privilege. I'd also like to highlight the work of activist artist Mia Harrison, as well as Black Power Naps and the Nap Ministry, who explore this idea of rest as an act of resistance. And so when talking about tech, I think it's important to think about who the tech is designed for, who has access to it, and who will ultimately be the ones who benefit or don't get to benefit from it. All right, let's talk about dream tech. I'm going to start by playing you a clip from the podcast that we are creating.
Is technology about to change the way we dream?
He's worked with the University of Texas to create technology that would record our dreams.
MIT's Media Lab, dubbed the Dream Team, are working to decode the unconscious mind. They don't just want to understand the role that sleep and dreams can play in our lives, they think we can actually tinker with it.
Coors Light, Microsoft, Sony, and Burger King are taking their commercials to the next level by trying to manipulate your dreams.
It begins with these companies unilaterally claiming our private human experience as their free source of raw material.
So you're under the dream with us now. Here we invite you to think differently about dreams, technology, and the future stakes for our minds at night. There are a lot of examples that I can give you about dream tech, but I'm going to focus on this one today. It's called the Dormio, and in order to understand how it works, I need to back up and tell you a little bit about the sleep state known as hypnagogia. Hypnagogia is this kind of in-between state. You're not awake, but you're not asleep. You're somewhere in the middle. You're dozing off, and this is when you might experience hypnic jerks or just like weird, bizarre things like memories from your childhood, just like doing weird stuff, or like if you fall asleep with your Discover Weekly playlist on, Kate Bush is just like coming in and doing weird things. For the record, fan of Kate Bush before Stranger Things, but like not that much before, just like a few years, so it puts me in kind of a weird camp. We can talk about that later. Okay, hypnagogia, right. This is a time where your rational thought is like really inhibited, and it's ripe for creativity or problem solving. And many artists and inventors have kind of found this over the years and found ways to harness this, including the painter Salvador Dali, who would sit in a chair holding a spoon, and when he fell asleep, the muscles in his hand would relax. He'd drop the spoon onto a plate. The sound of it would jolt him awake, and he would paint from what he was just experiencing in hypnagogia. There's other famous examples of this, but the problem with hypnagogia, and the reason why you kind of need to hack it in this way, is that it's amnesic. So kind of one or two things happen. Either you drift farther into sleep, and you just kind of forget that you were in this transitional stage altogether, or you're jolted awake too quickly, and it's kind of hard to scramble together like what you were just dreaming about. So this device, the Dormio, is a way, kind of a modern day way to hack hypnagogia and give you a way to explore it on your own. The device was created by Adam Horowitz and his team at MIT. They call themselves the Dream Engineers. And the way that the device works is that it keeps you in hypnagogia, and it just kind of nudges you awake just enough to keep you in that state, and it also allows you to program what you want to dream about. Yeah. So like, what would you want to dream about? Like, just keep it PG, I guess, or not. I don't know. What's the vibe? I don't know. Not? Something that you would want to program the device to do. Maybe it's a problem you're trying to solve. Don't be shy. I can't see you anyway, so I can't connect you to the comment. Which one? All of them at once, or all of them at the same time? Okay. Cool. Okay. Nice. So the way Dormio would work is you'd wear it on your hand, and you'd start to fall asleep. And the device would nudge you awake right when it notices that you're going kind of into the next stage of sleep, so it wants to keep you here. And it's attached to a speaker that would speak to you and say, hey, remember to dream about making out with all the Kardashians all at the same time. Hanging out? Dude. Are you serious? Great. So that's the Freudian slip of the decade. Man. Sorry, Mom. Okay, I'm just going to keep it making out because we're already there. So you tell the device is going to read this back to you. You're going to fall back into sleep. It's going to keep you, in the hypnagogia a little while longer, let you incubate that thought, let you incubate that idea. And then it's going to nudge you back awake, and it has recording technology that's then going to ask you, hey, Laurie, what were you just dreaming about? And you would mumble to the device, you're not quite awake, you're not quite asleep. And the device is going to record it so that when you're awake, you have the ability to go back through your recordings and actually listen to the types of things you were dreaming about, and hopefully that would spark some of it. So I wanted you to hear from the designer himself. This is Adam Horowitz describing how the Dormio works.
So the process of Dormio, you have it on your hand, you start falling asleep, you get into this early transition, and right when you're just changing into a dreaming person, that little device will literally whisper to you,
remember to dream of your grandmother.
And then it'll leave you alone and let you dip into a later stage. And then when you're passing the lip into the next big stage of sleep, which is stage 2 sleep, it's gonna wake you just a little bit by saying, hey,
tell me what you're thinking about.
And people will mutter, oh, I was playing ping pong, and there was my mother, and then it'll say,
thank you, you may head back to sleep.
And it'll let them fall into a dreaming period, wake them up, but not too much, to get a report, and you just repeat the cycle. So in like a 45-minute period, you usually get 5 dream reports, and I'd say usually about 4 out of 5 of those will directly contain the thing which you're trying to incubate.
So they call this process dream incubation, and they do their research on naps because they don't really want to tinker around too much with overnight sleep schedules. And for Adam, part of his mission with the device is to teach people that they're weird, you know? Because his favorite people are the ones who come in and say, you know, I'm not creative, I don't remember my dreams, this is going to be boring. And then he uses the Dormio and has this dream incubation session to show them, actually, you have this rich inner world. Like, you are a world builder. And I think, as Adam would say, like, what's most exciting for him is teaching people that, yes, indeed, they are artists. Adam is currently using the device with a study with the Veterans Affairs Office, using the Dormio to help with nightmares and sleep onset anxiety in soldiers. Adam does not have the plan to make the device commercially available, but he does have the code and the blueprint available open source on GitHub for people who know what I'm talking about. Now, we interviewed Adam at an interesting time. Right around the time that his device and the protocol he developed was published and put out into the world. And you might be able to imagine how other people or other companies might want to use the idea.
So you're telling me they broadcast commercials into people's dreams?
Of course.
But how is that possible?
It's very simple. The ad gets into your brain just like this liquid gets into this egg. Although in reality it's not liquid, but gamma radiation.
That's awful. It's like brainwashing.
Didn't you have ads in the 20th century?
Well, sure, but not in our dreams. Only on TV and radio. And in magazines. And movies. And at ball games. And on buses. And milk cartons. And T-shirts. And bananas. And written on the sky. But not in dreams. No siree.
Quit squawking, Fleshwad. Nobody's forcing you to buy anything.
Yeah, I mean, we all had commercials in our dreams, but you don't see us running off to buy brand name merchandise at low, low prices.
So good. All right, so they were a little off with the injection of the egg, but like, they got a lot of things right. In 2021, Molson Coors decided to run a dream advertisement at the Super Bowl. There's a number of reasons they decided to do this. One, Adam and his group at MIT had just released their work on dream incubation. 2, as already mentioned, this was during the pandemic. That had something to do with it. And 3, Budweiser had the exclusive contract for running Super Bowl ads during airtime, so they had to get creative about another way to reach consumers. Or people. I like that word better. People, right? Coors did ask Adam to collaborate on this idea. He said no, for a number of reasons. There's a massive scale, and he couldn't control how many people were affected and in what ways. And also, alcohol is an addictive substance, and to just quote him directly, there was something weird about the combination of football, beer, and advertising. They did find another scientist to collaborate with, and they ended up using Adam's term dream incubation to describe their protocol. What exactly did Coors do? They created what they called a stimulus film, which was essentially a video with trippy visuals. It's like this avatar character flying through like a mountain valley, and there's running water, and then like just kind of bizarrely placed Coors products. And so, I mean, this is like a kind of classic marketing technique. Like, you try and associate a product with an image or association in hopes that the person will then link those two things together. And they asked people to go to their website, watch a video, and then go to sleep. When they woke themselves up in the morning, they asked people to share their dreams with the hashtag Coors Big Game Day Dream. Sorry, Coors Big Game Dream, in case anyone's interested in that. Okay. They got one of the members of One Direction to participate in it, and in trying to figure out how many people actually tried to do this, I don't know. They don't publish the numbers, but I did look at the hashtag, and it's mostly just Zayn Malik, this guy from One Direction, and their fans reposting the video like over and over again. So it's unclear if this achieved Coors' goals or if this was just mainly a marketing stunt. But it brings up a host of questions around what it means to advertise to the dream space and who is there to protect our minds at night. Doesn't need protecting. So in this case, you had to go to the website and participate in it, so you were consenting to the experience. In the small dream research community, there's a split among scientists on whether or not to be concerned about what Coors did. Some see it as a marketing stunt and the kind of scary parts of it as something to happen far off in the future. But others believe that, indeed, they play a role in ensuring that we have proper regulation around dreams. Adam and 38 dream research colleagues led the charge by writing an op-ed calling for stricter regulations from the FTC, which is the governing body that would be making these regulations. Bless you, Matt. Just recognize your sneeze, wherever you are. Because these this is a really serious topic, but these regulations don't really exist right now. And so some scientists see themselves kind of a part of this, and others don't see it as a concern. It is true that dream tech is in its infancy. Many devices that are on the market, many that I didn't get to talk to you about here, kind of overpromise and underdeliver. But tech is continuing to colonize our waking and now dreaming worlds. And with Amazon Alexas in so many homes and in so many bedrooms, it's easy to imagine how companies like Amazon might use techniques to reach our dreams. Really hope I'm not giving them that idea right now. I don't think that I am, because a recent study from the American Marketing Association found that 77% of the marketing firms that they polled, and there was over 400 marketing firms, aim to deploy dream tech for advertising in the next 3 years. Yeah, I'm just going to say that again. 77% of the marketing firms that they polled aim to deploy dream tech for advertising in the next 3 years. That study was done in 2021. So thinking about this can feel dystopian and of the future, but as humans, we have this incredible ability to be able to think about the future and imagine and extrapolate and think through these scenarios. So why not think through the thought experiment fully so that we can ask these questions before we get there? I don't know how many of us would have predicted that we'd be like deleting period tracking apps on our phone right now out of fear that that data could be subpoenaed in court against us if we have a medical procedure. So I'll leave you with this question. What happens when dream data can be subpoenaed? Thanks.
That was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laurie. Thank you. And now it's halftime.
It's halftime.
All right, feel free to take a quick break if you need it and grab another drink, another tasty non-alcoholic. And I'm going to welcome tonight's poet, Suzi Q. Smith, to the stage. Please give a warm welcome for Suzi. Okay. Tonight's game is called Famous Toads in Literature. And here's how this works. As we learn about boreal toads a little bit later tonight, we thought it would be fun to celebrate some other famous toads. Okay. Are you ready? All right. We titled this game Famous Toads in Literature because famous toads and sometimes frogs in literature, film, and song was kind of a long and cumbersome title.
Fair point.
So Suzi, who is a celebrated poet, she's an activist, she's an author, we think that she's qualified to name that toad.
The famous toads? Okay.
That's right. So she's going to guess the toad, or sometimes frog, in question. Okay.
Okay. Do I get to ask the audience for help?
If you need it, you certainly can.
I think I might need it. Okay.
I'm going to read Suzi 3 clues. Listen to all 3 before you guess the famous toad, all right? Or sometimes frog. The first one is a toad, however. This toad enjoys sleeping, gardening, sewing, swimming, and many other activities. You got it?
Okay.
Okay. This toad has enchanted young readers since the early 1970s when his titular book was first published. And the third and final clue, this toad's best friend is another amphibian. Name that toad.
Okay, I feel like I might know this toad's name.
All right.
I feel like, is it Toad from Frog and Toad?
That is right!
Okay.
Frog and Toad are friends of the first book, and of many that document the friendship between Frog and his best friend, Toad. Okay.
I was nervous.
That one could have gone either way. We could have had a frog or a toad. So this is your second toad. This toad was featured in a book that was universally panned by critics, but beloved by children, and has been in print continuously since it was first published almost 100 years ago. This toad's home, second clue, this toad's home was described as a handsome, dignified old house of mellowed red brick with well-kept lawns reaching down to the water's edge. And then finally, third and final clue, this toad's wild ride inspired a ride of the same name at Disneyland. Suzi, can you name that toad?
Is it Mr. Toad?
That is correct. It is Mr. Toad from Wind in the Willows. That's right. Very good. You're a toad expert. Stefan, you should watch out. All right, here we go. The next frog in question, according to his fictional biography, this frog was born in Leland, Mississippi, alongside his approximately 2,353 siblings. Got it yet? Here's your second clue. On August 4th, 2015, this frog and his long-term partner announced that they had ended their romantic relationship. And in the following month, this frog was found to have a new girlfriend named Denise. Scandal. All right, third and final clue. This frog has released 3, not 1, but 3 hit singles, which has climbed as high as 25 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart.
I feel confident about this. I'm going to go with Kermit the Frog. Is it Kermit?
That is correct. It is Kermit the Frog. He broke up with Miss Piggy, immediately started dating Denise. It is like the Kardashians with the frog here. Okay.
I had no idea. Okay.
Okay, we got more frogs for you.
Okay.
This one, there is some controversy whether it's a frog or a toad, so audience, you can be the judge. This pet toad was frequently known for wandering off. Not much help, so we give you a second clue. This toad was a gift from an uncle in recognition of his nephew's special ability when he gained admission to a special school to honor said special ability. And third and final clue, Professor Flitwick once made this toad fly around his charms classroom to skillfully demonstrate the levitation charm. Suzi, can you name that toad?
Oh,
This is a hard one.
Belongs to Neville.
That's correct.
And his name is Trevor.
Trevor,
Thank you, Trevor.
That's right. Trevor the toad.
frog.
Is it a frog or a toad? No one knows.
Let's go with Imogen says frog, and I think we should do it. Yeah?
That is, in fact, a frog.
Thank you,
Thank you, Imogen. All right, and final frog tonight. This frog was a good friend of mine. I never understood a word he said, but third clue, I helped him to drink wine.
I feel like this name is, and I'm astounded that I know these answers. I was really nervous. I feel like Jeremiah was a bullfrog. Yes?
That's correct. Thank you, Suzi.
Thank you
You
so
are an
much.
excellent contestant and named that frog. That was wonderful. Thank you, audience, for playing along. Thank you for playing along at home. And now I'd like to introduce our next guest, who will be teaching us more about toads, because it's obvious we have a lot to learn. Dr. Stefan Ekernas is the director of the Colorado Field Conservation for the Denver Zoo. He has spent 19 years in field experience spanning Asia, Africa, and North America. He studied bison, wild horses, mountain goats, pronghorn, and white-tailed jackrabbits, and small urban mammals in North America. He's fluent in Swedish, he's fluent in our code, he's fluent in English. Stefan has collected over 10,000 ungulate and legomorph fecal samples, which, ladies and gentlemen, that is a lot of crap. He has flown in 250 hours of helicopter and fixed-wing wildlife surveys, and he survived one plane crash, which is probably a topic for another mixed taste. So please give a warm welcome to Stefan Ekernas.
Introduction, and I totally got that Kid Hub joke, by the way. That was great. Yeah, I'm a nerd. All right, so I'm here to talk about something totally different. So we're going to talk about boreal toads. Boreal toads are a cool animal that we're going to learn about, and then really what we're going to learn about is how do you save a species from extinction using boreal toads. And so we're gonna start big picture, much bigger than boreal toads. We're going to start with the extinction crisis. And really, just talk about the extinction crisis, we first need to go even further back in time and talk about geology. So there is a paradigm in geology. I'm no geologist, but there's one thing I know about geology, and this is one paradigm, which is that in geology, things either happen big and slow, so think like tectonic plates, or if they happen fast or small. So like a volcano in the scale of Earth, right, is just one mountain. It's pretty small. So things happen either big and slow, or they happen small and fast. But there are occasional events when that paradigm is broken, and we get big changes fast. And when those things happen, you get spasms of mass extinctions. And so to date, there have been 5 of them. A couple of famous ones was the end Permian 252 million years ago. That was called the Great Dying. 96% of species in the oceans went extinct. So life almost ended on the planet. It was caused by essentially global worldwide volcanoes that spewed a whole bunch of carbon dioxide in the air, changed the, obviously, climate, acidified oceans, did a lot of bad stuff, led to big extinctions, and happened in geology, geologic time, which is measured in a million years, happened very fast. Probably the most famous one of all, of course, was the KT boundary, the Cretaceous Tertiary, 65 million years ago, the end of the dinosaurs. That was caused by an asteroid, famously. So an asteroid came, changed conditions basically overnight. And today, we're in the 6th mass extinction, and we're in a geological epoch called the Anthropocene. And if you think about what people have done to the Earth, right, is that we've also changed things on a global scale really fast. So modern humans have only been around for 200,000 years. We only invented agriculture about 10,000 years ago. We did that 3 times. Incidentally, people kind of forgot about the 2 inventions that happened here in the Americas. But those were all very, very short geologic time frames. So we've changed things really fast. We are the asteroid, right? We are what's causing this. And indeed, we've seen a spasm of extinction. So there's a great book called The Sixth Extinction by Elizabeth Kolbert. I was reading this. It came out, I think in 2014, 2015. I was reading it when it came out. My mom came to visit, and she was like, "Oh, what's that book you're reading?" And I was like, "Oh, it's The Sixth Extinction. It's about how like a third of species on Earth are going extinct." And she said, "Oh, is that science fiction?" I said, "Nope, wish it were." But no, it's just science. So we're today with the IUCN Red List is kind of the global body that evaluates species under threat, and 28% of all species on Earth are threatened with extinction. and that includes 41% of amphibians, which some will touch back on. So, okay, where do boreal toads fit in this? So boreal toads are Colorado's only high-altitude toad. They live in beautiful wetlands like this one from 8 to 12,000 feet. They really love old beaver dams. So you come into, like if you're hiking in a valley and it's all wet and water's running down, you see willows, great moose habitat, all kinds of stuff, great beaver habitat. They love this water that's kind of 8 to 12 inches deep with lots of emerging vegetation, which is this grass that roots underwater that pop up underground. They love that stuff. And they used to be a really abundant species. So even from as recently as like the 60s and 70s in Buena Vista, there were reports of boreal toads sitting under streetlights picking off flies. And so they used to be so common that if you were in the right elevational gradient, that 8 to 12,000 feet, if you were in the sweet spot there, they would just be everywhere. They'd just be under streetlights. You know, they'd be even in towns everywhere, right? They were just everywhere. And now they're almost gone. So they're actually extirpated, so they're locally extinct in New Mexico, and biologists here in Colorado think that we're down to perhaps as few as 800 adult toads. To put that in perspective, there are 300,000 elk in Colorado. And so 800 is just a shockingly small number, because a toad is not very resilient. It's a really good food source for lots of stuff. Lots of stuff eat a toad. Many more things eat toads than eat elk. And, you know, we have a lot more elk than we have toads. So they're really the species that's in crisis. So, you know, you might ask, well, so what? You know, I don't walk around, you know, in muck and on old beaver dams, and, you know, I don't see these toads. Why should I care, right? And the first reason that I think you should care, why I care, is that, first of all, they're really cool. So why are they really cool? Well, true story. It's me trying it. They smell like peanut butter. That's pretty cool. It doesn't make any sense, but it's pretty cool. So second of all, is that they can live in a fridge for 6 months. So this is how we care for toads at the zoo. That's a picture. This is Tom Weaver. He's our assistant curator of ectotherms, doing a wellness check on some of these toads over here. We got nice, they live in Tupperware containers, about 10 per container. They hang out in the fridge, and that's because at 8 to 12,000 feet, what ends up happening, winter's pretty cold, if you've noticed. And in wintertime, they actually go into hibernation. In amphibians, that's called brumation. And so we do the same thing for animals at the zoo. So we put them in a fridge. So we literally bought a fridge, put a couple of air holes in it, you know, make sure they're getting what they need, and then they live in a fridge for 6 months. And then after they come out of the fridge, it's like college spring break for toads. I mean, it warms up, you take off all your clothes, you know, in amphibians called them plexus, you copulate for days straight, like up to a week straight. Great time. And females lay up to 2,000 eggs at a time. If you guys, I don't know if you can totally see, but you can see some of these black dots. So these are strands of eggs. So each black dot here is an egg. And so each female will lay up to 2,000 eggs at a time. They're quite fecund. And that's because each one of those eggs is a great little protein snack for all kinds of stuff. You know, from salamanders, fish, birds, anything they can grab them, we'll take it. So it's just a numbers game, right? You lay 2,000 eggs, and on average, one of those will survive to become an adult. So then they turn into tadpoles, which look like, well, you can decide what they look like. And then the metamorphs are really cute. I mean, I don't know if you can see, they got chubby cheeks. This was taken by a photographer who worked with Christy Odom. It's pretty amazing, and these guys are only like 3/4 of an inch long. And I mean, once you see them close up, it's a whole different world out there. They're really cute. So, you know, they sprout legs overnight. Then the toadlets, when they grow up, that's actually a 1-year-old. So when they metamorph and first out of that stage and lose their tail and stuff, they're about half that size. So they're just tiny. They're like the size of my pinky fingernails, and I don't tell my mom, but I chew my fingernails, so it's pretty short fingernails. So they're really tiny. They're just really cute. So, and then they go on and live for 20 years. So you know, they're a cool species. You know, they smell like peanut butter. But really, you know, so for those of you who aren't convinced about, you know, why they're cool, well, you should care about them for another reason, and it's that amphibians are really an indicator species for healthy wetlands. And so why that is, you know, I'm an ecologist. Ecologists talk about indicator species. What that means is that they're the first thing that goes wrong. And why is that? It's because they breathe through their skin, and so anything that ends up in water ends up inside their bodies. So if there's anything that's funky in the water, if there's any pollution, anything that's wacky, you lose your amphibians. They're the first thing to go. And so the fact that we've seen this species go from being so abundant you could see it under streetlights to, you know, you can barely find them, it's telling us that something is wrong. And when you look at these wetlands, right, this is a great, beautiful wetland near Gunnison, and that, you know, on the western slope, and that wetland is why Phoenix exists, right? That the Colorado wetlands is what gives water to not just the western slope of Colorado, but it gives water to, you know, pretty much all of Utah, all of Phoenix, all of Arizona. It's why Las Vegas exists, right? It's all off the Colorado River. It's why we have lettuce in winter, because of the Imperial Valley that gets water from the Colorado. So these wetlands are really critical to why we're here and how we can live in the Southwest and in the West are these wetlands. And these toads are telling us that something is wrong here. So the next part of the slide, the next part of the talk here is going to be, well, you know, what can we do about it? How do we save a species from extinction? So just like there's a paradigm in geology about big and slow and you know, fast and small, there's a paradigm in conservation also, in that it's the animals are never the problem. People are always the problem, right? Going back to this slide, you know, this toad is boreal toad is in Colorado. This picture was taken about a month ago in a healthy, beautiful wetland, and you know, that toad lays 2,000 eggs. It's doing great, right? The animals are not the problem here. The problem are that we've changed things so that the animals are no longer adapted to the environment that they spent the previous, you know, 30 million years living in, and suddenly we've come in and changed things up. And so the people are always the problem. So what's been happening then with boreal toads? How have people messed this up? And it's all due to a fungus that's called Batrachotrypsum dendrobentidis. Or chytrid fungus for short. So chytrid fungus is, for a long time we didn't know where it came from. We knew it came from somewhere not in the Western Hemisphere. It came from somewhere in either, you know, Europe or Asia or Africa, possibly Australia, although we don't think Australia because there have been big die-offs of amphibians there too. It's basically amphibian apocalypse has caused this, and it's a fungus that's been introduced. It turns out that most likely it came from Korea, and that probably the sort of original sin was the Korean War, where lots of people are wearing muddy boots, going into wetlands, soldiers, you know, trucks, all kinds of stuff. Lots of mud happened in the Korean War, and that mud got brought to lots of places. And that mud happened to carry chytrid fungus. And it's this fungus that has, to date, has documented 90 amphibian extinctions. And I want to emphasize how weird that is. So diseases almost never drive a host extinct, because usually what happens is by the time you get near the extinction point for the host, then there's just not enough hosts left for the pathogen to be able to parasite, to be able to find new fresh hosts to infect. And so when you're nearing the extinction point, usually what happens is that the pathogen goes extinct before the host goes extinct. But that's not how chytrid fungus works. So chytrid fungus can infect lots and lots and lots of amphibians, and so it's not dependent on the existence of any one species. And so even if that one species blinks out, it still has other hosts. It can persist in the environment for a really long time. And so it's caused 90 amphibian extinctions to date, which is just not how diseases usually work. And the question then is whether boreal toads are next, because that is the primary threat to boreal toads. As we've seen we've seen chytrid fungus. It comes out, it basically is a skin-eating disease. And so they just get these horrible outcomes, and it's lethal to almost every boreal toad. But there are species that are resistant to it. And that also gives us then the potential solution here. So we know that there are amphibian species, including here in Colorado. So like chorus frogs can survive this stuff quite well, actually. And so there's something in chorus frogs where they have resistance to this disease. And so what we have to do for boreal toads is basically find that magic genetic recombination that'll get these toads to be resistant to this disease. And so at the end of the day, that's what we got to try to do, is help evolve resistance to chytrid fungus. And so how do we do that? Well, and how can the zoo do that? So the first thing that we can do is that we can create what's called an assurance population. So an assurance population is a population of animals that we take out of the wild and we bring into human care. And so we did that for boreal toads. That one's named Albert. And that's our first gentleman, Marlon Reese, hanging out with Albert. So Albert was raised, he was taken as an egg out from the wild, then raised into a tadpole and raised at the zoo into an adult. And so we were creating an assurance population. We can do that essentially with a whole bunch of animals. Create an assurance population, so even if the species goes extinct in the wild, we can still have a breeding population under human care that we can eventually reintroduce. So step one is create an assurance population. Step two is you got to breed them, right? And so we breed here two toads in amplexus and the resulting tadpoles here, so you got to breed them. And then, as I kind of given away, right, we got to release the offspring back into the wild to supplement the population. And the goal here is, again, it's just a straight up numbers game where we're just trying to find, the advantage of having a toad or any animal that lays 2,000 eggs at a time is that's a lot of unique genetic material in each toad, right? So you're generating a ton of new genetic material with every single animal, and that means that there's some chance, it's a low chance, but you're running that experiment thousands and thousands of times with each new egg that's laid, those, hopefully somewhere in there's a toad that can have resistance to chytrid, and that's going to be our ticket out. And so we don't know what that genetic signature would look like, so it's just then releasing the offspring into the wild, hoping that they can make it, hoping that they can survive, and then breed, and that we can essentially facilitate the spread of chytrid-resistant genes. Then what we got to do is that we actually have to recruit volunteers to survey. So these are toads. They're really good at hiding. There are a lot of animals that are really good at hiding, and boreal toads are one of those. And so they're not only really rare, but even if you are in the right place at the right time, you may not see them because they're so good at hiding in underwater and in this grass. And so the only chance you really got to find them is to see when they're eggs and tadpoles, because then they're out in the open water more, and then you can see them better. But then we have this problem where you can really only find them for about 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks per year. And now you got to survey like all of Colorado to try to find, these toads. And so how do you deal with that? You can't, just from a staffing perspective, how do you create the right amount of staff to, I need somebody full-time for 6 weeks, right? Is that a job that many people would take? Probably not. It's not a great job. If you're hired for 6 weeks and then you're laid off, it's not a great job, right? So instead what we can do is we can use volunteers, community science volunteers, to help us out, survey wetlands, try to find maybe there are some chytrid-resistant toads out there, and help us just figure out whether our surveys are going well or not. Okay, the last thing you got to do it's not the last thing, but another step you have to do is decontaminate your boots. So that's us standing around spraying bleach on our boots so that we're not the vector for chytrid fungus. So you got to decontaminate your boots. So next time you're walking around an old beaver dam, bleach your boots. I'm sure all of you do that all the time. And then lastly, you got to have fun, right? So at the end of the day, you got to have fun with this stuff. You're hanging out with toads, you're getting muddy, it's a great time. And anyway, if you're going to work with people, you got to keep people inspired, And so having fun turns out to actually be really important. And plus, then I have more fun. So I like to have fun because, then you're having fun. So what we've done here, if you think about this, is that then what we've done is that we flipped the paradigm. We flipped the conservation paradigm. You said instead of people are always the problem, well, that means that we can make people the solution here, right? Reintroductions that we're doing only work because we have dedicated keepers who can take care of these animals when they actually come out. I didn't mention this, but when they come out of the fridge, they get this crazy hormone injection. We had a reproductive physiologist, Dr. Annika Moresco, and she spent years just figuring out what's the right combination of stuff to get these guys to breed, because it turns out that a fridge isn't the same as a snowbank in the wild, and so you got to stimulate them, and that's a pretty complicated hormone interaction that you got to start this trigger. And so it took us a long time to figure out just what the right hormone injection to give them is. This takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of people power, but people are doing it, right? We're keeping the species because people are keeping the species, right? People are the solution to this thing. And then we need volunteers, community science volunteers just need us. Once we've released toads, we got to figure out if that actually worked. Did they stick around? Did they all die? Did they all get eaten by a snake and all die, or what? We got to go back and survey. And again, we have this really short window to do it. We just need people to do it. But that means people are the solution. So we flip the paradigm where we make people the solution. Instead of the problem, we make people the solution. And so with that, if you want to join, go to denverzoo.org and then community-science. And thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Stefan. Don't go too far. All right, now it's time to get started with the Q&A. A couple bits of business. First, we have the QR code here, or we will. There we go. To type questions in on your phone. This takes you to Slido here. Now, if you'd like to be eligible to win the prize, make sure you include your name so we can read that off. Charlie Miller, co-curator of Mixed Taste, will be choosing the question that makes the best connection tonight. All right, so we're going to bring up both of our speakers. We're going to take questions on both topics at the same time, and we're going to encourage you to draw connections between dream technology and boreal toads. So please, won't you join me, Laurie and Stefan? And I see you already are asking some questions. We've got some live going in the chat. So I will be reading them off as we go, and we'll see what people are thinking about. The first question is from Anonymous. I think this is a great question to just get us started, which is, what do toads dream about?
Well, I mean, if I were a toad, I'd probably dream about that amplexus.
There you go. All right, this is another question for you, Stefan, which is just what is the most memorable interaction you have had with a toad?
Is this for me?
It's really for both of you.
No.
So the most memorable, was it attraction?
Interaction.
Interaction.
But I mean, do your thing. Do your thing.
I mean, I like peanut butter. I mean, that was attractive. The most memorable interaction I've had, it's going to be a kind of a dorky one, but so we call it the Toad Barn. We have this breeding facility, and essentially just a whole bunch of tanks set up, and we had thousands of eggs and tadpoles in there. And I think my favorite was I was in there once, and it was just me, and there were these thousands of tadpoles, and just watching them swim around was very, very mesmerizing. And I was like, oh, this is what I do, why I do what I do, and this is very zen. So yeah, that's my favorite interaction.
That's a good one. Do you have any memorable interaction?
I can't top that. There was one outside my house the other day. I tried to catch it. It ran away.
Maybe it was a boreal toad. 801.
Is your house between 8,000 and 12,000 feet?
Yeah.
Oh, well, then it probably was.
This is a question for you, Laurie, although it might be a little crossover here, which is if 70% of large advertising polled companies will engage in dream tech in the next 10 years, or 3 years, excuse me. This is from Josh, by the way. Could extinction education be mandated through regulation? A little bit of a crossover. Oh, by the way, when we have a crossover connection tonight, we're going to celebrate that connection with the sound. Usually I have a gong. It's a long story. But we've got a gong in the booth, and it plays the sounds. Maybe. Well, imagine a gong sound. Dreaming. Yeah, there it is. It's nice.
Dream about it tonight.
Yeah, I like it. All right. 70% of polled companies engaging in dream tech. Will extinction education be mandated through regulation?
Like, what do I think? In those words, probably no. I think I need some more expansion on the question, but otherwise let's play it out with the gong and move on to the next one.
There we go. That's the noise that we were talking about. Okay, I'm reading through. We've got a lot of questions that are coming in from Anonymous. So either there's one of you is very active questions.
But good for you, Josh.
You're all forgetting to include your name if you'd like to read the prize tonight. This is a question that everybody has on their mind because we all watched Inception. If you die in your sleep, do you die in real life?
I'm still living. I've died in my dreams multiple times. Or are we living? Is this a dream? Are we dead?
Who knows? Who knows? It's been a weird 2 years, we'll put it that way. Anonymous also asks, I have vivid dreams and often use them for inspiration for my art. And companies are trying to tap into this, but using my dream ideas? Question mark, question mark, question mark?
I think I'm having a hard time hearing you. Can you repeat that again?
Okay. I have vivid dreams, Anonymous says, and use them for inspiration in my art.
Great.
Are companies trying to tap into this, but using my own dream ideas?
Well, great question. I think that it's a great question to be asking. We should be asking what currency our dreams have, and for who, and for what purpose, because I think we will get there. And what you're generating at night can be used. But the infancy of dream recording technology, we're in it, it's happening. About 10 years ago, there were some Japanese researchers who did some early work to be able to decode your neural data to show roughly what category of dream you were having. It's only a matter of time till they can record your dreams, whoever they is, record your dreams and do whatever they're looking to do with it. So, yeah.
Okay, this is another question from Anonymous. It's also about dreams. We'll get to the toads in just a moment. This is about the racial sleep disparity that you mentioned in your talk. Is this true outside of the United States, Canada, Europe? They ask specifically, does it hold true in Africa? Are you testing dream technology outside of Western Europe?
I need hearing aids. Can you repeat this one more
Yes,
time?
yes. Sorry, all right. Is the racial sleep disparity true outside of the United States, Canada, and Europe? Does it hold true in Africa, for example? And are you testing dream technology outside of, or is dream technology being tested outside of Western Europe?
That's a really, okay, there's a few in there. The first response is I'm not sure. The studies I was referring to were based in America. The second part of the question was?
So does this hold up, this racial disparity hold up between in Africa or Western Europe and your European countries?
I don't know, but I can't support that with research, but I would think about it in the sense of who gets to sleep, who around you gets rest. Do you get rest? Are you able to get rest? And it makes sense that it aligns with, socioeconomic status, and in the US along racial lines. So I think we can maybe extrapolate to other societies, other cultures, and what might be happening there, and who might have the privilege of rest. And dreaming is the time when you can really imagine futures. So I think there's a lot to be said about having that time for yourself. But I don't know. Like the short answer is I don't know, and the studies that I was citing are US based.
There's a lot of people asking questions about toads, kind of specifically interesting things about toads. Like if a prince is turned into a toad, what happens there? But I think lots of people want to know, will Dream Tech help save boreal toads? Maybe we can spend a moment on that.
So there's a lot of conservation, right, where we're working with endangered species. We actually have to, it's an active imagination, right, to say, I want a world where this species isn't endangered anymore. I want a world where it's not like what it is. It's a different world, and that is dreaming, right? That is, it may not come directly in your dreams, but it's certainly a lot of the work that I do is imagining what could we do differently, and that it does, like how, how can we figure out how we're going to get boreal toads to be resistant to chytrid is an act of imagination, and there's no protocol for how to do that. There's no textbook, there's no manual. It's an act of imagination, and I think a lot of science is actually imagination. It's not at all the science that I was taught in high school, which is follow this textbook and here are the rules. It's instead nobody knows the answer, and you got to figure out. You got to use your imagination to figure it out. So.
Yeah. Can I build on that for a second?
Please.
This was an idea my co-creator Salix Finnock had the other day, which is scientists and imagination and what role dreams can play in that. There's a lot of examples of famous discoveries happening in dreams from scientists. And also she posed this question of if the scientists working on the COVID vaccine had some sort of dream tech to be able to link together the types, because they were trying to solve this problem, and they were definitely working on it in their dreams. So what could it look like for them to have been able to potentially work together, or even be able to harness dreams in a way that could have brought the vaccine faster, saved lives potentially. So
that's good. Good. That's okay. We can clap.
We can clap to that.
Perfectly okay. We have a crossover question here from Pamela, and Pamela asks, our interest into the sweet spot of boreal toad habitat harm them? Will our interest into the sweet spot, I'm going to get the pronunciation wrong, of I heard you say it several times.
Hypnagogia.
Thank you.
Got you.
Will our interest into hypnagogia harm us? And we can celebrate that question with the gong, maybe. There we go. Yeah. See, it's nice.
So is can you take it again? I heard.
Okay. Entrance into the sweet spot of the toad's habitat harm them? Will entering into hypnagogia harm us?
I'm going to defer.
We were all here, right? We saw. I think yes and no. I think there's a number of creative possibilities that can happen as a result of using dream tech or experimenting with hypnagogia. It's a really ripe time for auditory hallucinations. So musicians often, will have song ideas come at this time. So who knows? Maybe our music could look differently. On the other side, dream advertising and exploring hypnagogia for other purposes, I think could really lead us down into a scary place. So yes and no.
Okay. Bebo asks, what toad is best to lick to dream about making out with the Kardashians? all of them. Can cooers protect toads at least so that they can add their PB essence to Coors PB Stouts? That's a crossover question. We celebrate that with the gong.
So there's a definitive answer to that question.
There you go, the gong.
So the best toad to lick would be what's called a Colorado toad, which is highly hallucinogenic.
Is that what you were doing backstage?
Shh, tell him. So yeah, that is the best toad if you're gonna engage in that.
And it's from right here in Colorado. Who would have guessed?
That checks out.
Yeah, it tracks. Oh. Cool. All right. So Coors will be adding that to the essence to the beer. That sounds great. Can Dream Tech, this is from Katrin, can Dream Tech help influence actions like procreating like toads? Well, it always goes there.
Yeah. Straight up, yes.
Yeah. Maybe.
We don't have to expand on that. I mean, we could. I mean, just from personal experience.
You go on.
I'll just say this. We don't have to stay here very long. But for me, every romantic partner I've had, I've dreamt, like, about them before I was with them. Like, I didn't maybe feel the attraction, then I dreamt about them, and then the attraction was really, and it's usually just like holding hands.
Oh, yeah. It's like the most wholesome sex dream that ever happened. So sweet.
Okay.
So sweet.
Great.
Everyone wants to know, with a lot of exclamations. This particular everyone is Sophie Lynn Morris. She would like to know, do toads have dreams? Question mark, exclamation. I'm thinking I'm reading. Do toads have dreams?
Yeah, they probably dream about like crickets. I mean, like it's cool. You watch them eat, and like you give them insects, and they shoot out their tongue like 4 inches, and like in a 100th of a second. So.
Do toads sleep?
I mean, they sleep for
in
like 6 months at a time.
In the Tupperware, didn't you watch the lecture? In the refrigerator over at the zoo. Don't ever put your lunch in there. Very bad. Oh. Cool. Yeah. So yes, they sort of do. All right. Some toads have DMT. What is the relation? This is anonymous, by the way. Some toads have DMT. What is the relationship between psychedelic states and dreams? Psychedelic states and dreams.
We get a gong for that?
Yeah.
No gong?
Maybe. Can we get a gong for that? We can. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, both altered states. There's a lot of overlap in what we can learn from the dream state about, what we can learn about the dream during psychedelics. There's a lot of parallels. And yeah, I think we're in the nascency of like really figuring a lot of this stuff out. And Colorado's leading the charge. So we'll probably know a lot more soon.
All right, I'm trying to find another crossover question to kind of round out our Q&A tonight. This one's from Mara. And Mara asks, if we learn to control our dreams, will we start hibernating like boreal toads? So I think that's gong-worthy. There we go.
Maybe if you made it really cold.
Yeah. We have to go into that fridge at the zoo. I mean, it sounds nice to me. And would we want to, so yes, you say?
Yeah.
Okay. Nothing more to add? Okay. Well, let's see. Last one too. Deanna asks, if I sniff a boreal toad, will I dream about eating peanut butter and riding the Borealis on a toad with a saddle?
Please do that and find out.
Yeah,
and report back.
That sounds like a pretty good night. All right. Well, thank you both so much.
Thank you.
That was excellent.
Thank you.
Very good Q&A session. Thank you, audience, for all of the questions you submitted. And now it's prize time. Oh, we used to have an animation. I guess we don't have an animation this year. All right. Every week we give a prize to the person who makes the best connection Charlie Miller has chosen his favorite question of the night, and the person who submitted it will receive 2 free tickets to B-Side Music Fridays, which is MCA Denver's summer music series, hosted every Friday night on our beautiful rooftop cafe. See how smooth we worked in promo here. This week we feature Dreamcast and the Tomorrow People. The winner for the best question tonight is, and my script is not updating, Charlie. Charlie's just going to bring it up to me. It is Bebo who asks, what toad is best to dream about while dreaming of making out, or what toad is best to lick while dreaming of making out with the Kardashians? Congratulations, Bebo. Bebo, are you here in the audience? Well, if you are Bebo, then you can email programs@mcadenver.org to collect your prize. And now we'd like to invite Suzi up on the stage. And Suzi is going to enlighten us with an original poem inspired by tonight's talks. Please welcome Suzi Q. Smith. Suzi is an award-winning artist, activist, and educator.
A little bit. Oh, there we are. Can you hear me okay? Oh, good. I can hear you back. I can't see you anymore, but I can see my page. So I've been listening this evening and writing furiously. So now we're going to debut this new poem called Mixed Taste, Dream Technology and Boreal Toads. I made that up myself. I've never seen a boreal toad catching flies under the street lamp. I was born too late, and now I'm not sure I've ever even met one, but I do wonder if they dream in brumation. We know that they wake up inspired and ready to live their tender, transitioning, gentle lives against all interference. Like wars we forget to remember, the mud on our grandfather's boots, washed from the threshold, easy as a half-held dream. But some of us can grip these visions and remember, enough to believe another way is possible, that doom is not yet a foregone conclusion. They hold tiny toads on their pinkies and put them somewhere safe in hopes they'll see a future against all interference, like dream engineers in real time, making change, which can be difficult. For instance, if you've ever tried to have a conversation with someone who is awake while you are mostly dreaming, you probably know that level of fury when they laugh at you and say you don't make sense, and you know they just don't understand. We spend a third of our lives asleep if we're lucky, our minds quiet enough to hear themselves and no one needing anything from us. I learned from Tricia Hersey, better known as the Nap Bishop, creator of the Nap Ministry, that rest is my birthright. She repeated slowly over an Alice Coltrane track one Sunday afternoon at Su Teatro, while tears, exhausted tears, reminded me my ancestors didn't work that hard for me to have to work this hard, so now I rest long enough to dream. Just last night, I dreamt I was married to Method Man, and I was cheating on him. After all, he was gone all the time, and I was lonely enough to fall in love with someone who showed up, and I felt guilty. Everyone was judging me. I decided to make it work with Method Man and soon discovered he was cheating on me, but no one cared about that, and we split up. Sad truth. Change comes either big and slow or small and fast. Commercials leading into the last unbothered frontier, the place we are most free, and imagine what they will whisper when we open our minds at rest. Billy Ocean sang, "Get out of my dreams, get into my car." And I think he was onto something, Alexa. I think he might have been right. Thank you.
That was fantastic. Thank you, Suzi. Thank you, Laurie. Thank you, Stefan. And thank you, audience, for joining us tonight for Mixed Taste 2022. We hope to see you next week when we talk about Roswell and Georgian polyphonic singing. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night.